Hello, we are back with another episode of the Adventures in Adversity podcast. Some of you might know I am your host, many of you might not. Hopefully, we got some new listeners here. My name is Bree Wilson, and this podcast is really about turning adversity in any form into an adventure. So I bring people on like you, Meghann, to talk about how you've done exactly that, right? Turned adversity into adventure. And in your case, now you are helping other people do the same.
That's right.
So
Yes.
welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. Can I just say I love the title of your podcast, Adventures in Adversity. My podcast is becoming as messy, and I feel we're kind of sister shows. Just honoring and accepting the ups and downs and recognizing that with adversity comes opportunity and lessons and all of the magic. So
It's almost like you could adventure, life is full of adventures and adversity. And remember
yes.
that becoming is messy.
Exactly. Yeah, they seem complementary, right? At least at the heart of it, there's a core philosophy that I think is very similar. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. And we can give Noah a shout out, sending us to each other. He told me about you and he sent me your info and I was immediately yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh yeah, I'm
Um,
so excited. Yeah, I feel in this podcast world, the more I'm only a few months in, but I just feel it's a very welcoming and connected community, and I'm just so appreciative of the people I'm meeting. Aside from sharing my story, I have really had no idea of all of the interconnectivity and awesome people I was going to get to meet all along the way. So I
oh
am
yeah,
just loving it. Yeah,
amazing. And congratulations. I was just looking at your
thank you.
podcast. I think you've got 24 episodes, right?
Yes, I just earlier today,
Yeah.
recorded the 25th, which really did feel like a milestone. In that beginning, it's like, am I going to be able to do this weekly? Little by little, you just do. And it's just been a journey, and I'm loving it.
Yes. It becoming is messy, right?
Yeah,
Or
oh,
because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
which I think we're going to get into. But
Oh, for sure.
so I'm going to give you the floor. And obviously, from the title of your podcast, from looking at your website, your Instagram, all of the things, you are all about empowerment. You are all about going through and becoming who you're meant to be.
Yeah,
It's not all sunshine, butterflies, and roses, right?
that's correct. Yes.
And so give me a little bit of a background and
Sure.
we're going to go all the kinds of places, but who are you and what
Yes.
are you doing? No, I'm kidding.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
wow.
what are you doing?
Thank you for
More like
asking that. I will start from the now, and then I'll share a little bit from the background. My philosophy is grounded in a lifetime of chronic trauma, which I'll share kind of the specifics about in a second. But really, that those lessons I could have many crossroads in my life where I could have settled into being a victim and settled into continuing to self sabotage. I have lots of that in my background, but really, I have just come to learn through the lessons in my life that life is going to throw you curveballs. There's just no way around it. And once you accept that and just surrender to the idea that we're all here for a unique experience and the hardships that come our way are truly lessons to help us evolve to our highest power. And so for me, I really started getting that lesson about 10 years ago now. So before that, I was born to a teenage mom. So my background fully born to a teenage mom and instantly caught an infection at birth. And so that infection, wreaked havoc throughout my little body. And I always say, I really don't know a life without pain because my healthy body was only healthy for mere minutes. And then that infection took hold, which has led to shortened limbs and arthritis and pain in all my joints. I've eventually had my arms lengthened. I had a leg shortened because my two legs were different. Like it's things out of a movie
yeah.
that nobody really relates to that per se. However, the things that were born out of that are complementary to any child that's been through types of trauma. And so, you add on to the medical trauma. I also lived in a household with a father that was an alcoholic, abusive to my young mom. And so my early childhood really formed within me survival coping mechanisms. I was both a survivor, but also the peacekeeper. I was the oldest child in my household. So, you take, while there's all these medical things happening, when I was home, I really was protective of my mom and my brothers. And so that really is core. I don't know who I am without that. So as I got older, that coping mechanism, those protective things that I kind of built out of survival, really turned into kind of two paths. One, a very deep perfectionism in me. I've very much come to learn. I certainly didn't know this when I was, in grade school, but it really built within me, holes, deep holes within me of damaged self-worth and damaged self-love that I tried to fill. And I tried to fill that with achievement and perfectionism, getting really good grades out in the world, being recognized by my teachers, being the top of my class, but then also a need for acceptance from boys. And so I very much had a childhood and then a teenage years into adulthood of just seeking validation and acceptance in all of the wrong places, and very unhealthy situations with boys,
Yeah.
eventually unhealthy relationships, narcissism. My first marriage was a train wreck. All the fun stuff that comes with having to build that early reaction to trauma. So kind of long story short, about over 10 years ago now, when I went through my first divorce, the courage that eventually kind of was born of that process, really it started with a whisper, an inner kind of calling. I would be up at night nursing my new baby, and as I would sit in her nursery, I would just start hearing this little voice within saying there's better. It was just that. It was that simple. It was that just, it would be easy enough to ignore it, but it
Sure.
just was there, and I knew it
Flicker.
was there.
Flicker.
Yes, very much a flicker, but a flicker that, as quiet as it was, I mean, it's giving me goosebumps right now just thinking about how strong that whisper was. And it eventually got louder, and other lessons started coming. And really, that was kind of the steps that led me to leave that marriage, go on a journey of self love. There's lots we'll talk about today in those steps, but really, that's now grown into my coaching system to help other people address similar places. I like to say, when they're in their messy middle, these are really the key steps that can help them really get back and find themselves again.
Wow. That's a lot to go through. Thank you for sharing that so openly. That's a lot to go through. First of all, when you said physical challenges as a kid, being a kid is tough, right? It's tough
Yes, yeah.
to have the physical pain on top of the adolescent development, and then also to have the challenges at home. Um, I can see how that over time it culminates into at some point you can't sustain all of that,
Right.
you know,
Yes,
having gone through
exactly.
all of that.
Yes. Yeah, very much. Yet resilience. We're resilient beings, and this has taken years of therapy, reflection, all of the tools, and realizing that there were things that I was internalizing. There were things that, as a survivor, I was putting on a smile. And I very much prided myself on being able to survive these things, and being able to succeed and be good in school, and and thriving as I kind of went into college and getting a good job. Like, for years I really did think that I had kind of overcome
Sure.
and dealt with it really good, but a lot of that was a fake mask. And
Mhm.
it took self-sabotage to finally realize that I'd kind of been faking it a bit.
Sure. Well, you said these traumatic things, right? Over
Yeah,
it's creates holes. And then I think a
yeah,
therapist had told me once that we're sort of Swiss cheese, right? We
yeah.
become
Oh, that,
Swiss cheese when we come into a certain age, and then we start to try to fill it with I could totally
Yes.
relate. Unhealthy relationships,
Yeah.
the food, the alcohol, the drugs, whatever it was for everybody, the perfectionism, it goes right through the hole. It doesn't actually fill
Yes. Yes, that's so true.
it. But you're like, but I'm trying to fill them.
I know. Yes.
Why is it not full yet?
Yes, yes, yeah, and sometimes it creates new holes. To me, self-sabotage starts down. You start traumatizing yourself with the choices you're making. But
Mm,
then also the world doesn't see your holes. So I've even now, like being so open with my story, it's been really healing for my mom and I because she really had no idea how much all of this really was hurting me inside. And I didn't either. As a kid, I wouldn't have these words. I
totally.
didn't know my life was any different than anybody else's, from an outside perspective. I was a smiley kid, and so the people around me also at the time didn't realize internally, how hard my life was. And so I think there's just, something to be learned, I think, of how we view each other. Cause I think we all have some of those Swiss cheese holes and you just don't always know or see them.
Totally. And I think podcasts like ours, right? Not to toot our own horns,
Yeah, yeah,
but self-love.
that's right.
The fact that we are the titles becoming as messy, adventures and adversity, it's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay. And the more we
definitely.
talk about it, the more we realize, like, I don't think there's a human being on the planet that doesn't have some sort of Swiss cheese going on,
You're
right?
right.
Causes.
Yeah.
But so it's amazing that you've gone from all of that trauma to now it must feel quite healing and also rewarding to now be helping people
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
because
Yeah.
you've been there. So tell me
Yes.
about when did you have that realization of I want to help people?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's almost always been there. I did go to college, so my undergraduate degree
Yeah.
is from Penn State, and I have an undergraduate degree in psychology. And so there was a part of me when I was 18, 19 that was intrigued by that topic. I think it was really driven by a curiosity of my own self and
Yeah.
just trying to understand all of these big things that I didn't really understand yet. But after college, I ended up just taking a break. I had always planned on going back, and I ended up entering a career in association work. And it just took off and it led to a career in adult education, putting
Mm,
together really big conferences, eventually executive coaching and helping people develop at work. And there was just something innate about me and my experience that I've just always kind of been able to connect dots and be able to see the strengths in people and help them hone them. And so I did it very much from a professional lens for the last 20 some years.
okay.
So that was part of it. The other part of it was, I got divorced from my first husband in 2012. And, at that point, I would not imagine anybody turning to me for like personal guidance. Thought I was a bit of a shit show. I might have had the courage to get out of that marriage, but
Right.
I spiraled.
Totally.
I was
I get it.
still dating terrible people and jealous people. And it was a process. But slowly, I did start forming lessons and awareness of life that was maybe a few levels ahead of the other people, some of the other people in my life. And
Mm,
people did start to turn to me. So over
mm,
time, it really was informal, girlfriends who I've helped quite a few of them now and held space and been there for them on their own journey of
mm,
learning the same lessons I did, that little inner voice telling you there's something better. And really, to me, it's very much a journey to self-love is truly what it is. And, for each of us that looks a little different. However, I do think that's all of our intention on earth is to find our path to self-love.
yes.
And so as informally as I started doing that, more and more people just saying, you're my informal life coach. That just became kind of a theme,
Yes.
and then I had this pivotal moment. A few years back, I was 39, and I really thought that I had cracked the code of life. I was helping all these women in my life. My corporate career was going great. I just was really flowing and
Yeah.
feeling high. And I felt, okay, I've kind of completed the lessons. It's just going to be smooth sailing. And I said to my girlfriend, so from here on out, part of me is a little worried that life's going to feel boring because I've had such an upheaval of a life. How am I going to navigate consistency and healthy and yeah,
Mm.
all of those things? Well, weeks later, I ended up finding out that my biological father, the guy who raised me, was not my biological father. And
Ooh,
so it's a term called NPE. I'm one of those people that found out on ancestry.com, just doing my kind of heritage and stuff. And so here I am at 39. And honestly, it just set me right to the beginning. To be honest, I mean, it just floored me. I was in a state of shock, identity stripped. It just was a massive thing where I don't even have words to really say because I was in shock at first. And yeah, so anyway, long story short, we can talk more about that if you'd like, but to me that was another pivotal point because I had to walk those steps again. I didn't realize I was going to have to go
mm,
through the healing journey once again. But I feel in doing so, it really reinforced for me the power of those lessons. And then even more so, more and more opportunities to help other people with them. That's kind of the last few years, it's just getting more and more clear from the universe. There's lessons to be learned from my experience. There's no way I could have this background with all of this craziness without kind of the mission to be able to share and help others.
yeah, it's interesting that you say you get to this great point. You kind of go, okay, yeah, I've done it. I did it, you know.
Yes, yes, yes.
And then life just kind of hits you again,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
But that second time around, you know the path a bit more, and you know you have a toolbox.
Yes, that's
Whereas
right.
where you're like, okay, well, for this situation, which tool can I use for this
Yeah.
one? And then it gets you to the next point, and then,
Yeah.
all right, and then you learn a new tool, and it goes in your toolbox, and
That's
then
right. That's exactly how I visualize it.
right, and then some tools are years old from some random thing you heard. Some are from therapy. Some are from, I'm sure, as a coach, you are always learning and developing your coaching. Some are from your childhood, right? So you have a toolbox of what one of my guests said, you've got the lived experience and then
Yeah.
the training of like how to
Yeah.
coach, right? So it's, but that lived experience gives you so much empathy,
Yeah, yeah, that's so
right?
true. I agree very much with that. I think empathy is probably my number one motivation. Is
Yes.
just I'm constantly empathizing and coaching if I'm welcome to. I feel
Yes.
there's definitely a reciprocal nature that has to be present, but it just happens to me often. This is a common experience for those of us that describe ourselves this way. Is just open up to me all the time. I'm just constantly an ear to listen to because I have such little judgment, pretty much none. I love my friends all say if I do something terrible, the worst thing you can imagine, I'm gonna tell. Yeah. So yeah, but it's true.
Because you can, when you said earlier, hold space. And I just learned that in the last couple of years. I'm like, what does that mean? You actually, there's a way where you can actually let people just let it out where so I'm here like, as long as you need, let it out. Yes, that's really hard. Or there's people that you just feel like you can say it.
Yeah,
And it sounds
definitely. Yeah, I love a few of kind of the thought leaders I follow. You know, I know Glennon Doyle Melton is
yes.
coming to mind, and Brene Brown. But so I feel a mix of people have some variations of the need to have your different people in your life and knowing. So not everybody is owed your story. I'm certainly not saying that.
Oh,
And not everybody is the person you're going to share your hardest truth with, you know, but you just have people in your life that you start realizing. And I think it's so powerful. I mean, this really was a turning point for me. What part of kind of that whisper that I started hearing with my daughter, another big turning point was saying my darkest truths to the first person, just verbalizing. And to me, that's been an evolution that I feel like a little teary thinking about that moment because it just was a powerful moment to just say my truth and the person not run and
Oh,
them just love me. And not everybody could have done that because it was hard stuff back then.
yeah.
And since then, I've just been so empowered to share more and more. But at the power of having at least one person that you can go to without judgment, you can also have a circle. I have a friend she's who I go to when I need hard truth. She's not my not judgment friend. She's a different
Fine.
friend. She's going to be hard on me. And when I'm open to that, and when it's a topic that I'm willing to be coached
Yes.
on and work through, I will go to her. But sometimes I just need that holding space, and I just need no judgment, and we all need at least one person that provides that to us.
I love that because it kind of makes you think of if you're lucky enough to have this circle of friends,
Mhm.
and then if you're lucky enough to have access, well, hopefully you do have access to
Yeah.
some sort of therapy or
Oh,
coaching.
definitely.
Not every person in that circle has to be the same, and
No, no,
they're
not at
all different,
all.
and you love
Yeah.
them all for different reasons, but the common denominator is they should all love you,
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
and then they'll show their caring in different ways,
Yes. Oh my
right?
gosh, totally. Yeah. And I think the same thing goes for your love relationship. They they can't be they're part
Ah,
of this team. They're
totally.
but just my two friends, they too play a role, and it doesn't have to be every role.
Hmm. Because becoming is messy.
That's right.
Or
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
becoming the best version of yourself. I'm so glad you brought that up. Whether you're husband, a wife, partner, whatever companion you might have in your life that is your love interest, they actually can't. I think maybe we're raised to think that that person magically solves all
Yeah.
insecurities, and when you get married, all of your insecurities will just magically vanish.
That's so true.
No,
Yes.
it's no one really is going to complete you. They're
That's
going
right.
to help you fill and identify those holes, or maybe they even trigger
Oh,
that.
so true.
Oh, what is that hole?
Yeah, that's right. And they just play one of those. They just play one of those roles. If your listeners are ever looking on for a resource kind of on that topic,
Mm.
Esther Perel is my
Oh,
favorite for this
she's great.
topic. She is so great. She's really who has shaped my understanding. She talks a lot about that we used to have in society a real strong community, and whether it was your neighbors or your church or your work community, but it was just very much a team effort within your community. And somewhere along the way we kind of talked about our person as the one. They have to be everything. They have to be your best friend, they have to be your lover, they have to be the funniest person in your life, they have to be your therapist, they have to be a great cook, they have to
Yeah,
be in, if your job's 50-50 at home. I mean, it's just like nobody can be all of those things, and so yeah, I very much believe in each of us having our little tribe. It doesn't have to be massive. For me, I'm thinking 3 to 5 people, but those people, they're my team, and they
oh,
play a different role in my life.
oh yeah, they're it's so important too, and I think those friendships and your intimate partner, family members, as I'm learning about myself and going through things and then becoming my more and more authentic, you start to appreciate the people, realize that the people you love being around bring out that most authentic version, or they'll call you out.
Yeah.
And
Yes. Oh,
I was with
it's
my other friend
true.
the other day, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about so and so. I kind of want to like go back to him." And I looked at her.
Yes.
Yeah, we're joking, right? This
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
joke. She starts
Yeah.
laughing, and I like I don't even know what to do with what you're saying right now. We end
Yeah.
up laughing. That's
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yes.
I love you, but hell no.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
it's just because where she knows I'm going, so, but only because you're on the journey with them and you're like, we're not doing this. We're
That's
not going
right.
back there.
Yes, yes.
We are
And,
not
and
getting
that's
back into
and
this.
that's a form of love, right? And that friend is going to realize she might have another friend that she knows she can call and tell that same story, and that person is going to just listen Okay. They might be feeling that way.
I'm not
It's
here
just,
for you.
yeah, right? Yeah. You do you. Okay. If that's feeling exciting to you, then all right. Well, yeah.
What's
Yeah.
funny is maybe 10 years ago, I might not be able to be that friend that's so forthcoming because I
That's
didn't
so
want
true.
him to be mad. But like, I didn't even have enough self esteem to even understand what was happening. I just wasn't there
Yes.
yet. Now I see it and I'm like, oh, no, no, no. Now I'm all like, oh, no, that's a wound. You know, and
True. I'm going to totally botch this quote. It's not, I'm not even going to call it a quote because it's going to be a botched lesson, but there is some type of quote that basically says you can either, um, be uncomfortable and say the truth now and be uncomfortable for a minute and then let things get better, or you can hold things in to not feel discomfort right now, but then you're risking kind of discomfort and kind of an unhealthy narrative like for the rest of time. You
yeah,
don't own it now. If you
yeah,
own it now, you just say it. And I'm a big believer in speaking your authentic truth.
yeah.
Yeah, I never go to bed anymore with that feeling in your stomach of something unsaid. That to me, I don't ever want that again.
Oh, that's great. Well, and tell me how. So, as a coach, um, knowing that becoming is messy, like you said,
Yeah.
and knowing that you must have all kinds of different clients, right? Different personality types, different situations. How, as a coach, do you sort of deliver that coaching in a way that is it the same for each client? Do you adapt? Tell me about
Yeah.
as you're listening to these stories and tell me about sort of the services that you
Yeah.
offer and how you approach that.
Sure. Yeah. So it's certainly not the same for everybody. It's a very individual coaching journey. It's, I do though. I have my framework. Like, I very much believe at the heart of any coaching journey, at the heart of it, at least the people that in my life that I've worked with, at the heart of it is really almost always, if not always, tied to that self love journey. And I believe that the steps are generally the same. However, I don't believe that those steps are a linear straight line. I think that they are a forever cycle, and on any given day, I believe that any of us are likely going to benefit from focusing on one of the steps. And so, just a little bit more about what those steps are.
Yeah.
So my I call my system the imperfect level up. And so I mean,
Mm,
I call it imperfect because it's not one size fits all. It is not a one and done. Although I did think it was until I found out about my biological dad. I thought I had graduated from my own made up framework. And
you got on top
yeah,
of the mountain and then you're, oh, another mountain.
yes, yes, yes. So it's funny because eh, the system that I've created, the system that got me out of a bad marriage and helped me on a path to self love and eventually a very healthy second marriage, the first healthy relationship of my life. These are the steps I follow. These are the steps I've helped other women follow. It's funny though, because I discovered these same steps in so many ways in other people's teachings. I feel like
Mm, yeah,
universally, I feel in many
sure.
ways, those of us on this self love journey, once you kind of get to that point where you've really healed those Swiss cheese holes and have a love for yourself, I feel like there's commonality in our experiences. It
Oh,
might
yeah,
look a little different, but so I'll be curious if if you resonate with these at all.
sure.
So my level up system, the first one is again, listen to that inner voice. When you start having that little nudge, for me, when I've ignored it in the past, it has led to literal eventually hits over the head. That'll be a story for another episode. Two times in my life I ignored it so long that it impacted my health, and eventually literally both times ended up in the ER because I literally got a hit over the head, which is crazy. But I very much believe in the quote, the universe speaks to you in whispers and then it gets louder and then it hits you over the head. And I can prove that that's true.
We'll
So
get your
anyway,
attention at some point.
yes, yeah. So that's that first one, is just listening to that inner voice. So the next one is to examine your childhood as an observer, to really start now as an adult to be able to look at your trauma, your past experiences, your patterns of self-destruction, and really take a step back and look at those from a lens of compassion almost like you're looking at somebody else's child, or, just somebody else you love, and being more of a neutral observer. Yeah, and that one, I mean, I did that with a therapist,
Yep.
with a team, and I definitely learned tools along the way to be able to do that in a safe way. But really have finding that compassion for your childhood is so huge. The next one is valuing the lessons, and valuing the lessons for me. What I mean by that is to start honoring even the mess, especially the mess. So for me, in my first marriage, my mess really started bubbling up as my bad patterns with men. That nudge inside was telling me to leave the marriage, but I felt like I can't do that to my daughter. I signed up for this, did this forever. However, the universe started sending man after man after man. Like I traveled for work, and every conference, a guy at some point would say, "Do we have a connection?" And of course, they were the best looking. Oh my goodness, what are you doing to me, university? Because it for me, having a lack of really self-worth, that was a weak spot for me. Getting that validation, being in an unhappy marriage, and having this kind of repeated pattern.
Yeah.
So for a while, I felt so much shame in those experiences that they became new secrets. They became a slippery slope for me of bad behavior. It started out as just light flirting, and eventually it evolved to full blown affairs. And I could keep doing that, and I thought about continuing to do that forever and just staying in a bad marriage and living two lives. But I finally decided to confront it, and I finally decided to learn the lesson, even the messy one, and really break into this through my therapy at the time, with reading. That's when I found Esther Perel, who helped me understand a lot of the root causes of affairs,
Sure.
and I tackled it. And I that doesn't mean I solved it, doesn't mean it's fixed,
Looked
but
at it head
I
on.
looked at it head on, and I looked at my role in it. I feel I could easily say, well, my husband's awful,
And so,
and
yeah, totally.
I'm just a martyr that's going to stay with him. But I confronted it. So to me, that's
For
value the
you.
lessons. Um, the next one is embrace the magic of the universe. So this was another one that happened during those days. So when I started confronting the hard lessons, I started recognizing synchronicities. These all layer, right? You
Oh,
hear the voice. When you start this healing journey, it starts getting like magic.
and you're
It
like,
just does.
"Whoa."
I
Yeah,
mean, I have goosebumps. This
yep,
conversation has given me
yep.
so many goosebumps because it's just magical. And I've seen it. I know it sounds way woo woo for some people. I know that,
Until
but
you
I know it.
experience it.
I
Until
have
you
experienced
experience
it.
it.
Yes, and I can see you, Brie, too. I can't wait to hear some of your thoughts on these because I can
Well,
see in
earlier
you.
saying,
Yeah, so this is a commonality that when you confront yourself, this has been a fun one. Like these are my favorite stories, synchronicities, law of attraction. I've had so many cool experiences, but for me, what that is really just it's a hug from the universe showing me I'm on the right path. And now, and it happens all the time now, where this was brand new to me back then, as I was first confronting all of these things.
yeah.
So it's basically continuing to add to your
Mm,
toolbox. Like we talked about before. You mentioned, like, there's these holes, and you start finding all these different tools, and and it might, you apply this one today, but then you have this other one. I will be a forever like contributor to my toolbox. I'm constantly, even though
more.
yes, I have my coaching certification, and yes, I help
Amazing.
others, but I have never done this work. I am going to constantly be going back and forth to this, setup. And so for me, it's constantly, so even this year, I signed up for a somatic experiencing, an 8 week, like a deep dive
Love
class. Yeah, so for me, that was my new tool this year. The other one, whatever, and then the other two are. I'm just looking at
it. Yeah.
my sheet right here because
Go for it.
I'm getting too excited. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. So you is unapologetically love your authentic self. So really,
Oh,
here I feel like is your culmination, and what I mean by this step, it really is the where you're able to tell at least one person. And so this step,
mm,
when we get here, this, picture this in a coaching relationship. It's courage. It's getting to the point. So I would say the coach is probably a good start, or a therapist, but but evolving to a trusted friend, your partner, and that to me is, again, it's a journey. And I'm not saying you've cracked it all, but that's like a good sign that you're owning your story.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the last one is um, pass your level up wisdom on. Once you've kind of gotten to that self love feeling, you've told your story to one person, you're starting to tell it to more people. Now, all of those steps, it's really helping others evolve into those, and just supporting people to let them know that there's a path to self love.
Mm, I love everything you're saying because it's literally such a empowering feeling when you can tell somebody that something that you were ashamed of or maybe still are ashamed of.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it, and then
Yes.
literally they don't leave. Oh, on one of my episodes, I remember I had recorded it, I just got on the mic, and then I was like, Ryan, I said that I have like CD stuff, and then I said I take Lexapro.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
published it, and then oh my god,
Yes.
for like a couple of minutes, and then no, this is it's okay, and I have
Yeah.
this little
Oh
dialogue,
my God.
and
Yeah.
then now I don't care at all, but it was a little. I kind of felt naked in front of the crowd.
Oh my gosh, definitely. It's so true. And it's gonna feel like that, even if it's one person to start with. It
Oh, even
feels
just one person,
it's
totally.
but you're right though, even now. I mean, I'm an open book, but there's still like once in a while I'll be on a podcast and I'll get asked a question and I just start answering. And then wait, I've never told anybody that story. You just start realizing. And on the flip side, I've had my own shows where I felt nervous to hit publish, but it's just I've had this, and
Oh,
it is more times than not. Those ones are the ones that I hear from somebody,
yes.
and to me, that is, if one person, if that story landed with one person and helped them see they're not alone. Honestly, the one on one in the beginning, not only did people not run, which I thought that it would just shun the world. I thought in some ways, what our shadows are, our dark parts, we often feel they're so much worse than anybody else. Like nobody can be as bad
Nobody
as
else
us.
has any.
Nobody else, where, when I started telling, people just would share their own. And I've come to learn, nobody is getting through life without something that's brought them shame
Yes.
or kind of like put a ding on their self-worth. And if you tell it, if you kind of take the step to be able to do that, like it just unlocks, it helps other people be free to do the same. And so that's where I feel passing on this knowledge and helping other people get comfortable doing the same, to me, that's how we all help heal the world.
It's amazing. Well, if you think about it, you and I both have podcasts. You're helping people professionally as your full time, and you left corporate, which is amazing. And this is
Yeah.
your job. Um, think about the whoever first started this whole let's get on mics and talk about stuff that no one talks about. Thank you. Because now
Right.
I think,
Yes. Yeah, I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
and I feel so bad for men, women, I think 50, 60 years ago who couldn't share all this.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm like,
definitely.
just for me, once you start the journey, I didn't realize how, I guess, not authentic I was being. I mean, I thought I was being authentic,
Of course.
but I was actually, you're kind of being phony because you're turning yourself down.
Hmm.
Because I'm a lot. Like that's
Yeah.
even when I say that, that's sort of
Yeah,
something I'm
yeah.
working on. I'm a lot. And my friends
Yeah,
are like,
yeah. No, I get it. Yeah.
stop
Yeah,
saying
but
you're a lot.
we're told we're a lot. I feel that's another thing that's common, I find on podcasts. A lot of us, we get to the point where we do want to leave corporate because we've actually been told that we're too much. It's like, yeah, like please bring your authentic self to work, but dial her down. And it's, so I feel we're just raised to be like that. But I am hopeful. I have three teenagers, and I
Mm,
really do see such a difference in the world they're growing up in. There's certainly plenty of other problems, but I feel but as far as emotional intelligence and self-love, they have the language,
they do. They do. Oh yeah, my kids are like, "Yes, mom, we did our affirmations."
Right? I know. I was just telling a story earlier today about my daughter. She's now almost 17. And, but when she was like, I was having a meltdown, a stressful day. And I went into her room and she was just like taking these really deep breaths. And I was like, are you okay? And she was like, oh, I'm just breathing in calm and breathing out bad feelings. She never even was taught that. I'm like, who are you? Like, you're so wise. Let me write that down.
She's actually regulating herself.
Yes, yes, on her own.
Once part of this journey, when I see, having done therapy, and by the way, investing in traditional therapy, I've done coaching,
Yeah,
worth every penny. If you're
yeah.
listening to this and you're thinking about it, oh, I mean, it's literally life altering. And not to say there aren't some sessions where I cried, but the
Oh,
great
yeah.
part about coaching and therapists, they don't
Yeah,
care. That's,
yeah,
you guys don't care.
yeah.
You're not afraid of emotions and you're here to help.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
often think I was telling you that I did somatic experiencing this year. And really, to me, tackling your nervous system. Again, there was just so many things that I thought that were healed, but it was just surface level. And going through those practices, and I think almost all of us in the class cried at some point. And that was a big theme. Was if you are getting tears, if it's hard in general in these practices, that means you got to keep going there. A lot of us, I've come to learn about myself that sometimes I use humor right when it starts getting too hard.
Yes.
And I used to think that it was relatable. I used to think, but it's sometimes it's at the wrong time. Sometimes you should just let yourself feel and cry and be real. Yeah.
I definitely do that.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Not that we shouldn't. It does connect us, but it's another one of those where I think just being curious and recognizing what if I had just let that topic go a little bit longer? Could that have been a little bit of a breakthrough for me?
Yeah.
Or could it have been a breakthrough for the other person?
Feeling it a little longer and then make the joke after you fully
Yeah, yeah,
go to
yeah.
that. And how would you say, as a coach, how does somebody know if you're dealing with it?
Yeah, this one, to be honest, I don't have a perfect answer. I wish I
Ah,
did because I still struggle with this. Me personally, with the difference between being calm or being in a prolonged state of fawn or freeze. And what I've come to learn and I've seen with other women is a level of exhaustion is a good. I'm not going to say it's a perfect it solves it 100%, but I
sure.
think it's a really good one is if you're exhausted all the time, that likely means that your nervous system, something's off, that's draining you. And so I
Yeah.
feel that's a good one. Also, just kind of the normal you're eating, sleeping, those kind of functions, just checking in on those once in a while and asking yourself if those are generally normal for
Yeah.
you. It's going to be
Yeah.
different for everybody, but generally, do you have an appetite, or do you feel you're not using food as a healing mechanism? So I feel, to me, those are some of the best indicators that I see work for people in recognizing something is off.
Mm,
I've certainly had that myself. I remember when I found out my dad wasn't my dad. I'd been going to therapy for months. And she was asking, are you doing better? How are you doing? And I said, yeah, I think I'm doing good. And she's like, well, how are you sleeping? And I said, oh, I'm not sleeping. How are you eating? Oh, I'm not really eating.
great. But I
But
don't
I'm
know.
so good. Yeah. And so I'm just checking in on those things. Another one is, as you build those safe people, they're a really good litmus test. This takes a trusted relationship, but in that period in my life, people, when I admitted that happened in therapy, people opened up and said, you haven't been yourself. You're not laughing. You're not. And that people sometimes see it beyond you. The people in your day to day life, I feel, would see that.
They're the barometer because they know when you're you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why they love you.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. When you're doing this work, whether or not I don't have the right words, I don't like to view things as good or bad anymore. I feel like life is like a flow. Life is just happening. And when you're doing this work, there's just a flow to it. I like to say that you're tapped into the flow of life. And when you're tapped into the flow of life, you're eating, you're sleeping, you feel your best. You just have this ease to your life. Life doesn't feel hard, even though it might be
Sure.
hard things. But that flow of life really gets you to a place where not many things feel hard. That's another good check-in.
That's a great one. That finding that rhythm, right? And it's
Yeah.
the self-love, you're showing yourself love by putting yourself to bed, feeding yourself.
Yes, it's
Um,
right.
mhm.
Yes,
And
it's okay to think of yourself as a kid. Your inner child is in there. Are you nurturing that inner child?
mm, and honestly, the whole self-love thing, I remember way back when I first heard, I don't know why I remember hearing Rosie O'Donnell say it in the I used to watch the talk show.
Yeah.
I remember her in the 90s when I was a teenager. "No, you gotta love yourself before you love other people." And I remember thinking, "Why? Why? Why can't you just love the other? You don't need to love yourself. You can still love." I don't know if I necessarily believe that.
Yeah,
Oh, it's you're so much more present with others when you aren't rejecting and hating yourself.
that's right. Yeah,
And then
that's
you're
so true.
actually loving the other person because 'cause you're like, "I love me,"
Yes.
and that love is spilling over onto you.
That's so true. Yes. Yes, it's like you're oozing that love then. Yet I also think the flip of when love yourself, you set the bar for how other people love you. So you set the bar of your ability to love others. How do you love others if you don't love yourself is one. But then on the flip of that, I mean, this was like totally my background was just time and time again, why are men so awful to me? Well,
Yes.
I don't love myself and I'm teaching them how to
Totally.
treat me. And so, yeah, I mean, when you really break it down, it does make so much sense. It's a lot to wrap your brain around if you haven't felt that because you don't know it yet.
Totally, especially in my 20s before I met my husband, and he knows I was just a hot mess, and I
Yeah.
was completely dependent upon male validation and was seeking it,
Yep.
and that was try to fill the Swiss cheese, and then it was a very low ticket price. The
Oh
tickets,
yeah.
I mean, hey, but now well, I'm married now too. Now even just for friends, I'm not I have a s I just without sounding arrogant or whatever, I have a standard because I didn't used to.
Yes. Right.
It was awful.
Yeah. That's right. Oh,
You
I
just get,
love
like,
that.
bossed around.
Yes, yes. You didn't have it. Like what I'm hearing in you is standards and boundaries. You know,
Right.
if you have none, and then when other people are kind of sucking away your energy and people are annoying you, well, you've kind of made it possible for it to be a free for all, wild, wild west. It's okay. It's so needed to have standards and boundaries.
100%, yeah. So, no, everything you're saying is just so resonating, and I think the more and more I think we share just that because I think sometimes too, you'll listen to a podcast or see someone or meet a coach and you're like, "Gosh, you're feeling like you seem like you love yourself and you work on yourself. I'm just not there
Yes.
yet." And so telling the
Yes.
stories of, yeah, couldn't get out of bed or still happens sometimes where,
Yeah.
that thing, and then you spiral a little and then, "Wait, now hold on. I have a tool for this. Just get up, take a shower." You have to
Yes.
still have to talk yourself through it.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it does. That part, it never is going to stop. You are your forever project, and however, these tools that we've been talking about, I feel keep you kind of fine tuned, and you need maintenance, and then those days that you're talking about that are hard, you just start knowing that they serve a purpose,
Oh,
and you honor them. I don't judge myself now. I to be honest, I have days where I love to cry. I just have a release I need. I mope around, I wear sweatpants, I listen to sad music, and I'm just in this angsty kind of feel, but I know I need it, and I know if I just feel it, it's gonna work through
yes.
and it's gonna help me grow through it, and I'm going to be past it much sooner than if I tried to shame myself and not feel those feelings.
Yes, yes. It's gonna come out one way or the other. I'm the
Yeah.
same way. I'll be sometimes when I'm using one of my tools, like
Yeah.
going outside with a cup of coffee and just listening to the birds. Sometimes when everything's great, I just start bawling
Yeah.
because I
Yeah,
think of how
definitely.
far I've come.
Right. It's
Or
so
you think of, "Gosh, I remember when I was sitting out here and I was a mess," and then you're just Like, why am I It's okay. It's okay. This is
Yeah.
being human.
The
It's
human, yes. Crying is good for us. It's feeling, to me, it's sometimes I cry in awe. I love the feeling of awe and just the nature and seeing a sunset and just the right moment of a breeze going by, the perfect temperature, and then the nice sky. And it's just overwhelming. And I feel this conversation is making me feel that as you do that self love journey, I feel you feel all of the feelings deeper. For some people that might be a little scary at first.
yeah.
But it really, to me, it just enriches life so much to love yourself enough to welcome whatever feeling you need in any
Oh,
given minute.
so good. So good. It does deepen all the things. Deepens your friendships, your relationships. Like the breeze feels more beautiful. Honestly, at this point, the birds, I can get emotional being, lately I'm alive. And even it's just the sense
Yeah.
of awe because
Yeah.
it's almost a message of if you're hearing this and you are like, yeah, I can't get out of bed. The birds aren't, I'm not in awe of the birds right now. Okay. I'm pissed off or
That's
whatever.
right. Yeah.
It know that like the dark times make the light brighter, that everything tastes
Yeah.
sweeter when you do the work, the sense of gratitude for because you know what it's like to be
That's
down in
right.
the dump.
Yes, yes. For me, today I'm kind of in that birds chirping kind of awe. I'm just in a great energy space
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
but there's no doubt that in the next few days I'm going to be in that mopey, darker place. It really is cyclical throughout the week. I almost always have a day throughout the week that's just a day where I'm off. I'm either sad or just kind of just a little angry or annoyed for
Sure.
some reason. And my family too realizes that, on those days, I just need alone time. I just need my time to do what I need to do. Maybe take a longer shower, maybe take a nap, maybe go for a walk, but just allow myself to have that. And I'm not going to feel bad about that. And it's going to pass.
Yeah. It's the human condition, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Very
is.
much. Yeah. I agree.
And the great thing is, and I know we're coming up to an hour here,
Yeah.
and I'm you're coming back for sure. I'm just, and
Yeah.
then we'll
Oh, I would love to.
great.
I
I'm
have so much
really
fun talking to you.
we're gonna go into specific topics, but I think this is a great introduction to, and I want to read a few titles from your podcast
Oh,
too.
please. Thank
Becoming
you.
is Messy by Meghann Dawson. Yesterday, you published Obsessed, Anxious, and Calling It Love. Welcome to
Yes.
Limerence.
Yes. Have you ever heard of Limerence Brie?
No,
Oh my gosh, this one was a new one to me this year. So yes, you'll have to check that out.
I
But
will.
Limerence is kind of like an obsessive crush. Is really when you have a crush on somebody and it really becomes disruptive to your life. And that has been a story of my life is having those experiences and always feeling, oh, this is such a great connection, it must be love. And it can be disruptive, and just being able to name it and understand it has really been helpful for me.
It sounds like on your podcast too, you're looking at 5 gut check questions for anyone in a messy relationship crossroad. You're looking at
Yeah.
all of these emotions and naming them and how to navigate them, right? So cool.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
calm method,
Yes.
nutrition for a healthier brain and happier life. I'm gonna dig into these on my next walk for sure
Oh,
because I
awesome.
was
Well,
interested before,
awesome.
but now
Enjoy. Yeah.
now we got the vibe too, so I can be like, "That's my friend." Um,
Yay. Oh, I'm so excited for you. And I welcome feedback. I feel, fellow podcaster or any of your listeners, is there other topics or, and vice
yeah,
versa. I'd love to just stay connected. But, the first bunch of episodes, I really go deep into that level up system. And so like I go into kind of where each of them came from, the stories behind it. And then eventually I welcomed guests on the show, and then once in a while I go back to solo episodes. And so
same.
the five questions one was truly the five questions that my therapist posed to me when I was trying to decide if I was going to leave my first husband. And I've passed those on to a ton of people, whether you're a coaching client or women in my life, but they are so pivotal and it's so helpful for people that
Yeah,
are at that crossroads and feeling, should I stay or should I go? They're really helpful in that.
amazing. Well, I'm going to end with two questions. One question, what is your favorite coping tool when you're
Mhm.
feeling kind of when you're going through the becoming is messy life?
Yeah.
And then number 2, what was the second question I was going to ask you? Oh, where can people find I'm going to put all this in the show notes, but
Yeah, yeah.
where can people find you and tell me anything that's going on with your coaching business? And then we will invite you back to go into probably specific stories if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
yeah. Oh, I would love that. So first, my first kind of my favorite go-to tool in my toolbox. I'm going to actually give two because I'd love to give a shout out to a more formal one, but really my in my day-to-day it truly is music. I Music for me is so cathartic and healing, and so I use music as my go-to to really inspire the feelings and enhance the feelings that I want to feel. So I mentioned some days it's a sad song and I just allow that to just enhance and it really helps me work through whatever I'm trying to feel. Other times trying to get pumped up for something and that's going to be an energized it's going to be something that I use to enhance whatever I'm trying to feel.
I love that. Enhance. Any way to enhance that.
Yes, but
Great.
then the formal tool that I discovered this year that I go to now once a month is something called craniosacral therapy, and it's kind of like massage therapy, but it's a gentler touch, and it's specifically for your nervous system. And for me, it has been a game changer. I'm just in love with it, and so for anybody, especially with deep trauma background, just to have a tool to rely on that's a consistent one to just help, give a little extra consistency and love to your nervous system, because it is such a deep embedded thing to try to solve. And it's just not a one and done. And by giving it regular intention is
Mm,
huge. So I couldn't
love that.
recommend that more. As far as where to find me, MeghanDawson.com is my website.
Yep.
On that website, you can sign up for a weekly newsletter that I send out. And then, you can also read about more about my coaching. I also do speaking. And so I am, starting to speak, whether it's at, kind of women's conferences. I do a mix of trauma audiences, so sometimes associations for actual trauma survivors, or parents and caregivers of trauma survivors to give
Mm,
them some of these tips, but then also in a corporate setting. So, kind of
love
that level up system. I also have applications for trauma at work, whether it's, a company going through massive layoffs, the people left behind are traumatized. And so, what are some tools to get them back to really kind of a healthy state within their workplace and be able to really kind of get back on track? It's an area that a lot of workplaces overlook and don't give attention to that mental health side. And so I love to be able to bring that into the corporate setting too. And then the Becoming is Messy
yeah,
podcast that we've
yeah,
talked about. So that releases every Tuesday. We
amazing.
just recorded episode 25 today, which I'm super
Yes.
proud of. So
Back.
that will go live next week, and I'm super excited to get that out in the world and just keep sharing that. I would add too, I'm always looking for great stories and real stories, and love to have new guests on. So there's a place on my website also for people to sign up if they're
Yeah.
interested in exploring being a guest on the show.
Amazing. Amazing. I can't thank you enough. I'm so, so happy we connected. Love your energy. I love what you're doing for the world. The coach I went to, healing her stories, she helped change my world. And so coaching is just such a good investment. I literally, it's a gift to yourself and then a gift to everybody who literally interacts with you.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Brie. I loved our
Seriously,
conversation. I would love to come back. And I just so
please.
appreciate just your encouragement and supportive words and great questions. It just was such a fun conversation.
I love it. I'm chatty. I love to talk about healing and then I'm obsessed with people who help people heal because
Yes.
you guys are gifts to be able to create that space for some really heavy stuff and then it turns into people going on to live amazing lives despite what happened to them.
Oh, yeah, my gosh, definitely, and that's so possible. One
It
other thing I
is.
would like to add is that whoever's listening to this, that there's no need to fix yourself. I spent so long trying to thinking I could fix myself, and really all you need is curiosity and a healing mindset, and just keep on repeating those two things. Just being curious about your own healing needs and really trying to identify those Swiss hold cheeses and reaching out and continuing to learn and be curious about the tools available to do that, it
Yeah,
really does lead to such an abundant life.
totally. I'm gonna make the cheesiest joke ever right now, literally.
Perfect.
You can go for me, I went from the Swiss cheese to the brie cheese. Solid,
Yeah.
it's more solid, but still a
Yes.
little kooky.
Yay. Well, I
Oh,
hate Swiss cheese and I love brie, so
ah,
that sounds incredible. Yeah.
amazing. Well,
Oh, well, thank you.
Megan, this was amazing. I'm going to link to all of your pages and Instagram and Spotify links and all that to your podcast and your
Awesome.
website in the show notes. And again, remember what Megan says: becoming is messy, but she can help you with that journey. So, thanks again, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you.